As sure as night follows day, we know that every season in the Championship, as we're gearing up for battle, three teams who are going to be right in the top of the betting and predicted to be in the thick of the promotion push are the sides who've just come down from the Premier League this year, that being Luton, Burnley and Sheffield United. Why? Because we have giant cliff edges in our game and the Premier League. Even if you do spend just one season up, which all of these three sides has, you do come down a very powerful force in terms of the Championship and your ability to compete there. Let's have a little look at Luton, Burnley and Sheffield United and discuss the possibilities of those sides bouncing straight back up. It was a big conversation for a lot of this season with these three teams all dropping down after promotion. And for the most part, it did look like the three teams that went down, Leicester, Southampton and Leeds, were going to be switching back over. And we did get 5 out of 6 places filled that way. Only Ipswich's miraculous back-to-back promotion means that the orthodoxy was broken. Here is the recent history. You can see a gold star there for a team that came down and bounced immediately straight back. A silver one for one who reached the top 6 and obviously lost in the playoffs. And hopefully you can see, this is good news if you're a supporter of Luton, Burnley or Sheffield United. Frankly, if you're a supporter of Luton, Burnley and Sheffield United particularly, you've been here before and your name's already on that list. Look, 11 out of 15, that's 73%. 11 out of the last 15 teams relegated have finished in the playoffs or the top 6 as a minimum the following season, with 7 out of 15, so just under half immediately being promoted back. And you can see the champion from the previous 4 seasons, Leicester, Burnley, Fulham, Norwich, that first place spot 4 years in a row has been occupied by a team who has just been relegated. My argument is always that a competent year one parachute team, freshly relegated, who doesn't sack a load of managers and completely rip up their squad with the understanding that, yes, you are going to have to sell players, of course. A competent, stable team should be in the top 6, in the top 4, and in the automatic promotion sort of race. And that played out big style this past season. As I say, we could have got Leeds, Leicester and Southampton as the top 3. Let's delve into these sides here. Luton were the highest ranking team to be relegated. Luton's an interesting one because they don't have the kind of smell of the Premier League on them in a yo-yo team kind of way that maybe the other two do a little bit. We all know that going up is fantastic, but what it does do is it does ramp your expenses up, and almost the longer you're up for, the more of a disaster it is if you go down, because you know you're going to have a squad full of players on big wages with big value. Yes, you can sell some of those, but those you can't or you don't want to are either a gamble or a liability. That doesn't apply to Luton. I think their top signing was sort of 5 or 6 million quid. They are going to lose, as always, these clubs, players that were on loan. You can see Lokonga in the midfield there. Are Luton really going to be pilfered for many, many players? I'm not sure they are. I think Alfie Doughty, you can see his 8 assists on there. He might attract some interest. Adebayo and Morris, if someone wants a powerful double figures Premier League striker, you know, with a record now after the last season, both good age as well. Maybe those two will get bids. I'm sure Luton aren't going to have to sell in respects of the way that maybe a couple of the other teams we're going to speak about are. But you'd imagine Luton are going to be very stable. Rob Edwards doesn't look like he's going anywhere, even though we know certain jobs are available. The Leicester one might be one that scares some fans of newly relegated teams. But Luton tick a lot of boxes for me in terms of it not being an absolute disaster. The relegation, they'll be well set for it. They will be stable. The one thing I will say about Luton is how many years in a row can they just punch right at their weight or above their weight. It seems like they always do it, don't they? In the end, there's going to be one season where they have an off season, isn't it? And they don't quite get to where they need to. And if that happens this season, maybe they won't be in the top 6. But you wouldn't back against a stable Luton, not necessarily having their major assets pilfered, and you back them to replace them anyway with their transfer record. So I'm pretty high on Luton in terms of them being competent and being up there next season. Burnley, I don't know, because you talk about chaos and immediately their manager has gone. There's going to be a new manager running Burnley. Vincent Kompany got relegated and got the Bayern Munich job. How about that? Again, loanees, Assignon, Esteve and Larson all in that FootMob illustrated team. But what you do see here that maybe you don't see in Luton is cheat codes. I can see Sander Berger there, where we've seen teams come down and the likes of, I don't know, Norwich keeping Buendia or Watford keeping Ismaila Sarr. This year, Leicester kept Dewsbury Hall, Southampton kept Armstrong, Leeds kept Nonto and Ruter, and you know, sometimes you do look at players, maybe not necessarily in the Luton squad, where maybe that was more the sum of its parts and a well-coached squad and a well-run club. Whereas you can see more with Burnley, maybe the odd cheat code thing. But believe you me, if Burnley don't get the managerial hire right, doesn't matter how good your players are, they won't finish up there in the top 6. If they do, there's every chance, of course, that they will. And mentioning, I can just think, when I think of Burnley, I am thinking of Watford a few years back with Ismaila Sarr and João Pedro, where you look and there's a lot of players there. Not all of them are going to work, but where you think, okay, they're expensive, they've gone to the European market, and a couple of those players will absolutely boss the Championship. But managerial hire imperative. Sheffield United, I'm less sure on, but again, you look in and look there at Gustavo Hamer, who absolutely was a cheat code for Coventry, wasn't it? Ahmed Odzic himself was a cheat code for Sheffield United. So was Archer for Middlesbrough. So even though they stank it out in the Premier League, 104 goals conceded, Brereton Diaz as well, although he was only on loan. So whether they can get him back or not. The only worry for Sheffield United is with the ownership and, you know, will they have a good go at it? And they managed to keep the assets last time, but for God's sake, they went into a transfer embargo and all sorts. So it wasn't, you know, it wasn't as simple as I think Paul Heckingbottom made it look. And speaking of Paul Heckingbottom, that's Chris Wilder now in the dugout. Is it old school Chris Wilder, who was amazing at Sheffield United, or is it the Chris Wilder who we saw at Middlesbrough and Watford? It wasn't quite the same guy, was it? So I think if you're ranking the 3, I think Luton are going to be the most stable. I think Burnley maybe have the most talent, but are going to have to sort out the managerial position. And I don't know, I've almost got Sheffield United in between on both counts there. They've got more cheat codes than Sheffield United, and then, than Luton, but less stability. I don't know, it's a hard one to read with the Blades, and it does feel until either the Prince Abdullah there gets his appetite back, or they have a sale, which he seems to have been wanting to done for the longest time, then I'm not entirely sure where I rank them, but they are Championship thoroughbreds, Sheffield United. They're always up there. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on the 3 teams that have come down. Are they going to bounce straight back? And we have to now bring into the conversation our playoff losers, which include the only team to get relegated last year and not bounce straight back, Leeds. They're going to be hard to finish above. You've got Norwich with Thorup going in. You've got West Brom as the other playoff loser. Then you've got Borough and Coventry, who lost in the playoffs the previous season with the same managers and on upward trends, having, you know, kind of got through last season. You've got Hull as well, who have been well backed, but new manager in there as well. All of this is going to shape things up. They're probably looking at the 9 teams most people are going to have in and around their top 10. Let me know your thoughts on the freshly relegated teams. Are they going to bounce straight back? And why don't we put up, linked in there, exactly the same video we made last season? What did I say then?